Good.
Right, okay.
So here we go. You know, we were just having a little conversation, but we're live now. You are here at Litvak Leadership Live, but you know that. And I am here with my new friend, Evan. I'm going to say it right. You know, and I said it so well when we first started. This is Evan Tzivanakis.
That's right. That's right. Very good.
Thank you, Tzivanakis. There we go. Finally. So Evan is an executive coach that helps teams come together, helps organizations, and he is currently in Malaysia. So for those of you wondering, it is 4 a.m. in the morning. So Evan, thank you so much for getting up super early to be a part of my show today.
Pleasure. No worries. I think I'm going to go straight to the office after this 5 o'clock, be an office ghost. Pleasure. No worries.
No one there to disturb you. So Evan, you talk about developing high-performing and engaged teams that produce results quickly. So let me ask you, what do you mean by quickly?
Yeah, it's a good point. Normally my engagement, if I coach somebody, let's say on culture or human resources or sales, most of my clients, normally they will see an impact within 6 months.
Okay.
So is this quickly? Is this slow? It is for the client at the end of the day to decide. But my way of coaching and teaching and developing others, it is very energetic. It is educational, and I'm a practitioner. I don't teach what I don't know. You
Right.
see, so I think with having experience, having lived in and worked in 8 different countries, that experience gave me the opportunity to really understand what the situation is and get stuck in and and help companies and executives and decision makers that are looking for this kind of support and help. But it's a good point. How quick is quick? So you made me think. So maybe I should rephrase it.
No, I mean, frankly, I think 6 months is quick, depending upon what the actual outcome is. You know, what you are coaching, what you are attempting to accomplish. And obviously, if someone is hiring you, they have a vision for what they want to accomplish. They want something that has a solid impact. So to be able to have a solid impact within 6 months, I think is very reasonable to call it quick. So you say you teach what you know. You are a practitioner. Give us an example of something that you have experienced yourself that you are very confident in leading people through.
Couple of things. Culture creation. That's number one. Sales communication. That's number two, especially virtually. Engaging people, especially engaging people in multinational companies, and those people have different backgrounds and from different cultures. So we could focus, for example, of those 3 things: engaging and mobilizing teams, culture creation, and sales training. For example, as you talk about how quick is quick. So for culture, you cannot change or improve culture within 6 months. It is a bit, you need more time than this. But sales, communication, the way we engage clients, closing, providing better service, having a better sales team that don't read scripts. That I actually I never gave a script. I don't like giving scripts when I train sales.
Sure.
I like to make people think, and I try to help them understand the potential buyer psychology. This is how I call it. I try to make sales professionals think and try to understand how the other person is thinking, and we call it now emotional intelligence. But this emotional intelligence word,
Right.
it didn't exist few years ago, right? I used to call it tactical empathy.
Interesting.
And
So why did you call it tactical empathy?
Because you see, Sean, a lot of people, I think right now, when you say to somebody, to a manager or say to a leader, empathy, they think this is what they think. They think talking to, oh, don't worry, it's going to be okay, to their employees, right? Take some time. That's not empathy. You see,
Okay.
tactical empathy is something that it's me, for example, understanding the other person's culture, background,
Okay.
where they're coming from, what environment they grew up with, what are their beliefs, what are their emotions. So this is tactical empathy. So when you communicate a message, when you do, for example, a performance appraisal, you do it differently to a Westerner. If you have an employee, Westerner I call European guy or an American guy, and the way you do a performance review to an Asian employee is different because Asians seems to be a bit more emotional.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you do a performance review, let's say, because I lived in the UK for 10 years, the way I used to do performance review back then, let's say if your employee is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's going to be, this is what I like you doing, this is what I don't like, this is what you need to improve, this is what happens if you do it, this is what happens if you don't. So my performance review was based on those 5 things. My expectation, for example, you need to bring this amount of money. This is the expectation. This is what happens if you don't do it. Maybe you cannot progress as fast in your career, or you will miss out on a bonus or something. And this is what happens if you exceed it. But in Asia, you need to be a bit more diplomatic because they will take it personally.
Oh, okay.
So you
So,
need,
so when you go back to the ESQ, all right,
yeah,
and you talked about understanding the culture, the background, the beliefs. I mean, I think we find ourselves during this time of COVID in an interesting place because I know when COVID first hit about a year ago, it was in a week, it's going to be 1 year. And I know in the sales role that I work in professionally, I had nothing to do but cold call, such as the business that I'm in. And I would call people and just ask them, how are you doing? What can I do to help you? And that was a major departure for me as opposed to explaining how I could benefit them. How do you see that COVID has affected the sales cycle and how salespeople approach prospects?
it has affected the sales cycle, as you said. The opening line is totally different. Purchasing power has been reduced, right?
Mm-hmm.
People have stress, so you need to have that. This is why you need to have that tactical empathy to understand that, and it has affected a lot. And sometimes on it hasn't really practically affected companies. Clients will always will give an excuse. It's COVID, call me after COVID, or I don't have money, or I'm not the decision maker. But now we are dealing with I think for a lot of people, the effect is psychological because they may lose their job, or maybe they
Mm-hmm.
had a colleague who had COVID, right?
Right.
Or especially in the sales role, a lot of people that if I think you come from a sales background, I also come from a sales background. Is if you take a salesperson and you put them to work, you put them to work from home for 2 months, they go crazy, right?
Oh, yeah.
An
Oh, yeah.
IT and
I
an
used to
IT,
travel all the time.
if you're an IT guy, if you're a coder, you can work from home. You don't
Yeah.
need to go to the office environment. But if you're in sales, if you're in creative environment, if you're in marketing, you like the buzz of the office. So I think COVID has affected a lot of organizations in that aspect. So the circle, the cycle say it has the cycle says also. So that's why now you need to be different. Maybe you need to make more cold calls, right,
Yeah.
than before. So you need a different approach. uh, it depends on the product or service that you are selling. You need to have more patience, and maybe the sales cycle, depends again on your product or service. If the average sales cycle before it was 3 months, maybe now 6 months.
Oh, I have seen a definite extension in the
Extended,
sales
yeah,
cycle most of the time, which is not to
yeah,
say there's not outliers that happen quickly,
yeah.
because there always are, but people have been hesitant to make decisions. So how do you see that affecting how people take, the vision of what they want to accomplish, and like you say, struggling to get from vision to execution? All right. So,
Yes.
how has COVID affected, and how can you help people get from vision of what they want to an execution of moving towards it?
Well, what I do through my coaching process and through the use of professional tools such as professional assessments, I take the decision maker, the leader, I take them psychologically out of the situation. I distance them so they can see, first of all, what is going on. I call it helicopter view.
Okay.
So I take them out, and through the professional assessment that we do, and which is actually the third step in the process. My process has 6 steps. Is I would like them to work at their business, not
All
to
right.
work in their business. So that's what I do, number one. And then number two, I don't give them the vision, Sean. If you have a company, if you're the leader, you're the decision maker, you should have a vision.
Absolutely.
And this is,
Absolutely.
this is a difference between coaching and consultancy. A consultant will come, they will give you 100 pages book. There you go. They will charge you $50,000, and that's it. It's your responsibility to execute it, to read it. But coaching, it's working with the client. So from vision, so that's number one. Take the client out of the situation, distance him or her, and let him see. And then through coaching, if you don't have a vision, the vision will come. But as a leader, as a decision maker right now, yes, for some companies it is challenging because they've been hit hard financially. So they say, listen, I don't know where the company is heading. And that's fine. Maybe sometimes your vision will be 6 months, maybe it will be 6 years. So maybe right now, there are a lot of companies that do not have vision out there because, as we say, we live in a VUCA world, right? Volatile, uncertain, and so on. So, um, but as a leader, as a decision maker, if you're, let's say, a CEO of a company or a founder, or you're heading a big department, I think it is your responsibility to have a vision, and then
Absolutely.
and then
The
be able
leader
to.
and the leader needs to be communicating the vision.
That's my next point.
Okay.
That's my next point. So that point number one is you should have. If you don't have, maybe you need to take some time away from the office and see where is the company going. How much money do we have? How much clients do we have? Can we raise money? And then create a vision. And right now, creating vision in a flying economy, it's easy.
Right.
But creating vision during these times, it is challenging. So number one, you need to have a vision. You cannot drive the car in a fog. Sooner or later you will end up somewhere that you don't want.
Exactly.
So, but it's challenging. It's not easy to have vision all the time. Number two, what you need to do, that's the next step. Because normally there are 4 management styles. For me, it's visionary, democratic, transformational, and coaching. And today we'll talk about visionary. The next step that you should have as a leader is communicate that vision, communicate that direction, communicate that purpose to your employees in order for them to believe it. Because if they don't believe it, if you don't convince them, it's going to be hard for your team to execute that vision,
So
right?
when you say communicate it so they believe it,
Yes.
are you talking about that they agree with it, that they're excited about it, that they understand it? What do you mean by believe it?
Yeah, they don't have to agree. That's why you don't recruit. You need to recruit the people that fit your vision, not necessarily the best people. So that they are excited about, absolutely. They don't have to agree, but they are excited about Of course, absolutely. Because how are they going to execute it? Because they are the ones executing the vision, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, and they need to understand where um, the vision is going. Otherwise, it's just like a dog barking, like I got here
Like
going on
yours
in the
behind, yeah, yeah.
background.
It's fun. Absolutely. Understand it and also understand how they will benefit.
There you go.
What is it for me? One of the best companies I worked before, when I learned a lot, is when a financial company that I worked in. I remember even if you ask the cleaner, where is the company heading, she will tell you number one in the industry within 5 years, because that was the vision, that was the line set by the founder. I remember back then. And then what was it for me? The leader of that company had managed through the development of the company globally to get the best people, to give them roles that matches their personality, matches their character. So they were automatically developing as the company grew.
Sure. Interesting. Interesting. So, and I think Hilton Hotels did something like that a
Yes,
few years ago, where you could ask anyone what the goal was for, the 1 year, the 3 year, and the 5 year goal. And everyone was able to answer it. Now, they didn't all answer it exactly the same, because whether it was someone making up a room, a hotel manager, or a chef, but then they could answer, but they knew what the goal was. And then they would add, and then they would ask in this case study, you know, what are you doing to bring us to that goal? They understood what their purpose was.
accountability, yes, and purpose, yes, yes, yes. Well, this is another point. Is once you know your vision, and then you communicate it and you get them excited, the next step is to be, you need to give your employees then a sense of autonomy and let them run, let them do the work on their own terms. And what you should do as a manager, as a leader, is to check, just to check to make sure they are on the right track, or you want to check to make sure if they want to share any insights. Another company I worked, it was the opposite of the previous example. You learn a lot from successful companies, but you also learn a lot from non-successful companies.
Sure.
I think if you have the right mindset, right? If you be able to see what can I learn from a bad situation. So that company, I remember, the product was fantastic, technology company, but the
Okay.
leadership was so bad that the company could not scale, a very high turnover, and basically extreme micromanagement.
Oh, I
Which,
hate
yeah, I think everybody does, and I guarantee you, companies that had this kind of management, they had and they're having a very hard time during COVID, because they were if you are forced to allow people to work from home, all you do as a manager and a leader, if you're micromanaging, checking all the software every hour to see who is logged in and who is not. Is my employee logged in? What time do they open You go crazy.
Oh, you would go absolutely nuts. I
Nuts.
mean, and people now are working in a different way
That's right.
than being at home. Sometimes they're working in the middle of the night. Sometimes
Four
they're working
o'clock. That's right. Yes.
a day. It's altogether different. So you talk about the lack of leadership, and micromanaging. Where are some areas that leaders can improve to just make that small shift to really support their teams properly? Because sometimes, and I'm sure you'll agree, it's not that leaders have to change like this much. They just need a little tweak, and it makes all the difference in the world.
The answer is it depends. And I'll give you an example what I mean like this. Some
Mhm.
companies, what they have to do, sometimes they just have to invest, providing everything else is right, in a bit of infrastructure, such as having a good CRM. And what do I mean by this? Let's say I have a team of accountants or a team of salespeople. If I have good CRM, I create the vision, I communicate the vision, I give them tasks, I make them accountable, I teach them how to use the system, and I let them run. And from that technology, I can see who is performing, who is not performing, what tasks are they doing, and then I just manage it like this rather than following people every hour what they're doing. So give them tasks, tell them this is the expected time to be completed.
Right.
The way you complete the task is up to you, providing you train them already. Let's say this is the next
Absolutely.
step. Yeah, I'm not talking about a new employee. I'm talking about somebody who's been in a company and they know what they do, and then let them run, and then communicate, and then make them accountable, make them feel that accountability. So that's one thing that leaders can do. Look at your infrastructure, look at your technology, and what systems are you using to see if your people are working out. I understand sometimes, okay, you're a leader, you have pressure, you have shareholder pressure, or maybe it's your own company. You want to make sure that your people are not sleeping or exercising all day when they work from home. I understand that. But you know what? You don't have choices. You cannot monitor them all day.
You cannot.
You
No.
cannot. So
It
what
gives
do
me a
you
certain
do?
level of trust.
You put systems in place that you get your reports every day, and then that's number one. And then two, you focus the shift in accountability. I don't
Hmm.
care what, like, you have a report, you need to have the report ready in 1 week. Today's Tuesday, by next Tuesday. You set the reminder, you make sure they know how to use the system, and then let them run. And make sure that the next Tuesday, when the reminder comes up, your report is ready. And you make people, and then you explain, and then you need to have a meeting with everybody and say, listen, I'm not going to micromanage you, but this is the mentality here. So that's one thing that managers can do. It's a simple thing, you're having a good CRM. You'll be surprised how, for example, a little bit of good technology can help you, because you cannot run around to see what everybody is doing. As you said, somebody maybe like to work at 4 o'clock in the morning.
So do you believe that leaders should be looking at these reports on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis? What is the proper slice of time that the leader can evaluate their team appropriately?
It depends on the report, right? So if you're a sales director, maybe you will get your reports every week,
Hmm.
or you can have every day. I know some sales managers that are looking at the number of interactions on a daily basis, because they know sometimes it's just a numbers game. And it depends. You see, it depends. Every leader need to think, what do they want to achieve? So for example, if you want to have a culture of not results orientated, but effort orientated, you should be checking your reports every day, and then getting the best people and tell everybody, hey, look, today Sean made 100 calls. Well done. I'll give you a little bit of extra bonus, because you know that to get the sales in, you need X amount of calls. So
Absolutely.
it is up to the leader. Of course, you're not going to be checking bigger reports. I have some reports that I check every day. I have some other reports which I check every month. But it depends on what I want to achieve. And it is about inspiring. It's not about spying,
I like that.
right? Like, if you're in a sales environment, let's be honest, it doesn't really matter how many calls you make. No. What matters is it's how much, if you hit your target. Because I've never seen a sales manager say to somebody, hey, son, you hit your target last month. Well done. How many calls did you make? They don't say this,
Yeah.
because you reach the target. But if you haven't reached your target, then you say, hey, how many calls did you do? What was your effort? So uh, it, it, creating culture is not an easy thing. You need to be consistent, because you cannot go one day and drive people crazy and then the next day be totally relaxed. You need to have consistency across the board in the way you communicate, because it will confuse people, right? Because if I come and tell you, hey, listen, Sean, I need you to make 50 calls per day, But then until yesterday, I was like, yeah, take it easy. It's COVID. I will confuse you. So I think now is a great time for companies to set the right culture.
I could not agree with you more. I think now is a fantastic time for companies to look at their culture. And, COVID's going to go on for a little bit longer still. We're not going to wake up next week and it's going to be like, okay, it's been 1 year, we're done. Now's the
Yeah.
time for companies that can really transform.
And I think a lot of people will stay to work from home. Like if you have and it's great because as a business owner, you can reduce rent costs. Why do you need a floor of 50 people where
Mhm.
20 of those people are coders and IT guys? They can easily work from home. So you go from a 50 space floor to 30, 25. You reduce your costs, you reduce your electricity, you reduce your rent, and at the same time you create a culture of accountability. Why do you need IT guys in the office, for example? So now is a great time for, where there is challenge, there is opportunity.
Yeah, and do you see companies taking advantage of this opportunity to improve themselves, or are
Yeah,
they just chasing the bottom line?
yeah. Sometimes they're chasing the bottom line, and sometimes, they should look at this opportunity and see how technology can help them. If you remember 2008, it was the last crisis before this was 2008. Remember Lehman Brothers,
Oh
financial collapse and everything. So it was the year where WhatsApp, Viber, Airbnb, Grab were born. Between 2008 and 2012, I think all these four companies started.
I did not know that. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
So because they can see what is happening, they know they can see the future, they could see how people will communicate. So I think now is the time, to restructure your company, to restructure your culture, and to restart. Because you see, right now, a lot of people are starting from the beginning. Doesn't matter what you were doing in the past. You need to reinvent yourself. And technology right now is giving us such a great is giving us a lot of tools to be able to communicate with our team virtually. You see where we are and where you are now. You are in the
Oh,
US,
yeah,
I'm in Asia.
absolutely. I mean,
Like
a year ago, some people were doing this, but it wasn't readily available like it is now.
now people are telling you, no, 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 let's have a Zoom call or let's have a Skype call is the new norm. And for me, it's great, I think, because when it comes to managing people, I believe a lot in accountability and holding people accountable. And it's 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 human nature. When when you give employees a great sense of autonomy,
Hmm.
yeah, which by the way, all managers and leaders should provide a great sense of autonomy. Self-direction is a basic psychological need because when we work on tasks we have more control over, we feel more satisfied and we feel more motivated to complete them because we have that ownership feeling.
Right.
So this is something that I think leaders and managers should do.
Okay, so specifically, you think the leaders and managers should do what?
Give autonomy and give a sense of ownership to their people to work on tasks that they have more control over.
And that is difficult for some leaders because then they can think to themselves, well, I'm going to lose control. It's not going to be done how I would do it. I may not get the outcome that I know that I need.
This is what we call, if somebody thinks like this is what I call in my training an emotional block. You are judging before the outcome. So you are already judging in your. So you see how emotional blocks and limiting self beliefs can hold you back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, would you say, and I was having a conversation with my mastermind group today, um, One guy said, don't let today be a photocopy of yesterday.
Hmm.
What percentage of the people do you think are actually just living day to day without a vision that they want to implement?
You're talking about senior managers, leaders, or in
I'm
general?
I'm talking about when you look at all people who are working, those who are leaders, those
Yes.
that are leader wannabes, all the way to the entry level role. Okay, what would you say is the percentage? So let's do it like this: the percentage of everyone that is just living a photocopy life, and then let's look at middle managers versus executives. So for everyone as a whole, what percentage do you think are just living a photocopy life?
70%?
Okay. And then what about middle managers? However you define that.
Yes. Six, maybe a bit less, 60%?
Okay. And then executives.
Yeah, a bit less than around maybe 50%.
So what you're telling me is that you think 50% of the executives are actually still living a photocopy life where, okay, yesterday was good, I'm going to do the same thing. Yesterday was good, I'm going to do the same thing.
Yeah,
As opposed to
probably.
driving.
Probably, yeah.
Wow. Wow.
What do you think? Because you see, for me, I'm not really good working with percentages. Not working, but thinking like that. But what do you think?
So I think that I guess I would have broken it out different that um well, no, I guess I was looking at it the opposite, but it was the same answer that what I was telling my group was that I think only about 10 to 15% of the people, if that many, and I think I'm being generous, actually have a vision
Yeah,
that
could
they
be.
want to implement and execute.
Could be,
And
yeah.
to us in this group and the people we hang out with outside of this group, we have surrounded ourselves with visionaries, people who want to have self improvement. So to us, it seems like far more people want to strive, when in reality, I think a lot of people are living the photocopy life.
And you can't blame them. And it is challenging out there. Um, because right now in some places there is not much room that they can do, you drive around the city and you see a lot of, nowadays more than it used to be, a lot of shops for rent, for sale, for
Oh, yeah.
rent, for sale.
Yeah,
So but right now is a great time for people to transform and to understand that the past is in the past,
absolutely. So,
and this is a time to transform, to learn new skills, to yeah, go on, yeah.
no, I that was great. So I was going to ask you a final question because we've gone 33 minutes
Yeah.
in a 30-minute conversation. So what I want to ask you is let's build on what you just said, where people can transform and learn new skills. What advice do you have for people to make that happen?
Not to live in the past. A lot of people, unfortunately, are living in the past. Um, so, so it happens to me as well. I told you at the beginning. I used to travel more frequent. I
Yeah,
used to go there. Life was great. We used to make this. We used to spend this. We used to. You know what? I am harming myself, but thinking about the past. So the advice I have um, is try, because I know it's not easy. Try to forget, to learn from the past, but don't not to live in the past, because you will be depressed. Find out exactly what is it that you want to do and start doing it. So three things: stop living in the past, find out exactly what you want to do, and start doing it. And the world is changing. eh, it's not gonna be like, like we start work when we're 25. we work until 65 and then we have another 20,
Right.
30 years. Life expectancy is expected to go up. So you will see in the next 10 years, people will start doing degrees at 65 years old because they will have another 30 years to live.
Yeah.
And the percentage of entrepreneurs in the next 2 years by 2030, and this is data, the highest percentages will be people above 55 years old.
In the next
Because
10 years.
within the next 10 years, by 2030, because life expectancy and technology will improve health and living standards so much that life expectancy is going to go up. So from 2030 onwards, we will see people living up to 100 years old, 95, because life expectancy is expected to go up. Therefore, when somebody is retiring at 60, 65 years old, they will still have another 35 years to live. So what are they going to do? They're not going to stay at home and chill out. They will study, they will start businesses, they will start part-time businesses. And this is what it is called the gray market because of gray hair. So a lot of companies will invest or should invest in this kind of market because you know what? They have disposable income to spend and they still have another 30 years on average. So it is a great market to target. So it's not only millennials.
The gray market and this gray market will be technologically advanced.
Absolutely.
Unlike the people who are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s now.
Correct. Absolutely. You will see our parents. Well, my parents, touch wood, still alive. They're 70, 80. But our kids, when we go to that, in 20 years, when we are 60, 65, will be totally different from how our parents are now. We will be connected. We will be communicating. We were tech savvy, and we're going to be very active.
Absolutely.
So the old lifestyle is different. Things are changing fast. So there is right now it's very challenging not to live in the past. I think you want to close, but I think is that we need to understand that we are entering a new era. Things will change and it's going to be exciting.
It's very exciting. It's very, very exciting. You and I are singing the same tune, just with different accents. So,
well, my accent is a little bit. If you're talking about my, I lived in so many countries, so it's all mixed up. So yeah. Anyway, yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Evan, thank you so much for being on the show today. You've brought a tremendous amount of information. The folks who were here watching us got some great information, and on the replay, I know when other folks come and watch this as it resides online, they're going to be blessed by it too. So thank you very much for getting up so early in the morning to be my guest today.
Pleasure. Most welcome. No worries at all.
Awesome. Everyone else will be back tomorrow with another person who is not in Malaysia this time, but is in a closer time zone, and we'll still be talking about leadership. So everyone have a blessed day, and